Hey everyone, welcome to episode 11 of the LumEd podcast. This is the final chapter in season 1 and we had a lot of fun putting it together. I hope that there's been something in there that's been valuable to you and that you can help you on your journey of creativity, being an entrepreneur or running a business. In today's episode we spoke with Jemma Whiten. She is the Group Marketing Director for Ecostore. If you don't know about Ecostore, they make products for the home such as cleaning products and soaps, shampoos and things which are all sustainable and eco-friendly. A really great business model. So to be able to talk to Jemma was during the season of COVID-19 was a really great chat. So here we go, dive into it, and I hope there's something in there that you enjoy.
You've got my exercise bike in the background, we've got all sorts of things.
Yes.
This is like real, authentic working from home.
Good. How's lockdown been and who's been in your bubble?
Yeah, so the lockdown's been good. I think as for everybody, it's had its ups and downs. It's good moments and it's more challenging moments. So I've had my husband in the bubble and then my 2 kids, so 5-year-old and 7-year-old. And we had a new joiner to our bubble and we got a puppy. So we got a puppy a week ago. Through the SPCA, so we couldn't meet him in advance because, of course, with level 3 at the time. That's been immense entertainment for the sort of tail end of lockdown.
Oh, what sort of dog is he?
SPCA special, so that means no idea. And they say they give you about as much information as he's white, and he may be about medium size.
Yeah. Well, I guess I was going to lead into my next question. What is some good that has come out of lockdown? I guess a puppy's always good.
Oh, puppy's great. Yeah, puppy's great. There's been a lot of good that's come out of lockdown. I think as everyone's experiencing, there's been a bit of a slower pace. I sort of say a slower pace. It's weird because it's a slower pace, but at the same time you're trying to work 2 jobs, homeschool 2 children, and most recently make sure the puppy's not destroying stuff. So I think it's a different pace, I think, and it's been a real change, and just everyone adapting to that, and then adapting to new ways of working with the kids, new ways of working with my team, with the business. So I think everyone's done an incredible job of adapting very quickly. Now we've got to adapt back. It seems to be the next challenge.
Yeah. Everyone's using different platforms to be able to work remotely and still create some sort of team unity. And there's been like I guess a weird sense of connectedness through this season, being able to have so many different platforms to be able to video call and things like that. What's some of the workflows that you've been able to use to be able to communicate with your team to ensure that workflow efficiencies still happen? Do you just want to talk us, through some of that, and maybe even how many people in your team that you're looking after?
The team's spread a little bit across New Zealand and Australia. So there's probably about 15 of us in my team. It's a little bit fluid. We have the odd contractor, that sort of thing. So that's my immediate team, but then our wider team, we normally have about 30 to 40 people, 40 in the office in Auckland, but we also manufacture in New Zealand as well. So we have our manufacturing site up in Pakuranga as well. How we've kept in contact, I think the neat thing is just communicate. There's and people have been very, very good at that. And we were, half of my team, the digital side of the team, were slackers, so they were using Slack a lot.
Not actually slackers.
In the bad sense, slackers as in using Slack, and they were loving it, and they'd been using it for ages. And we'd been talking about, the marketing team doing it across Australia and New Zealand, but these things, take a little bit of time. Boom, go into lockdown, and everyone's on Slack within 24 hours, and they're all master users within about 48. So I think that's one of the neat things out of this is that we're all of a sudden, brilliant in using our communication channels. And that's actually been hugely beneficial for our team, given that I do have a team, some people sitting in Australia and some in New Zealand. And it just makes the Australian teams feel so much more connected, which is incredibly important. The crew that sit over there, don't have that face-to-face that we take for granted, or used to take for granted here. So it's really neat to create that connection. So really, I think Slack, and then outside of Slack, the usual suspects, the Skype and Zoom, everyone's been using. And from a personal perspective, just to catch up with friends, I think, Zoom is, of course, quite neat. Have everyone sitting there on your screen, and the grid view. So yeah, I think everyone's been very good at upskilling very quickly.
We chatted to a guy, Daniel Flynn, last week, and he was saying that there are a whole lot of people around the world who he would make the effort before lockdown. He's based in Australia at the moment. He'd make the effort to fly over to New York just to have, a sit-down hour meeting with certain executives. And he feels like the climate's changing a little bit, and now a video call is almost perfectly acceptable. And he's sort of just chatting about the dynamic of it's leveled out a lot of that hierarchy in the sense of booking meetings and all of that, which I just thought was really interesting. Do you have any thoughts about that?
Yeah, I think that there's been a lot of small meetings that have been done via, Slack, Zoom, but there have been some really big conferences, get-togethers, global conversations happening, and people are realizing how easy it is for those to take place. And that actually can be really seamless in the way that people present and the way that people chat, the way that people ask questions. And I think that the flip side of that, so the benefit of that is there will be, I think, the opportunity for more global conversations. People won't put, travel and, timing for travel out there as a barrier to these kinds of conversations. And in addition to that, I mean, that's a huge benefit from even, a sustainability standpoint. If we're not all jetting around New Zealand or jetting around the world, there are times when you can't replace face-to-face, but there are many times that you can. And being able to bring calls together, bring people across the globe together is hugely powerful. And I have had a lot of people saying as well where they just wouldn't have had those conversations, or they wouldn't have joined those conferences, or they wouldn't have joined those meetings otherwise, and then thought, well, it's so easy. Of course I can. The barrier to being a part of these things is just no longer there. So I really do hope, and I do think that actually that's one of the things that will stay out of the back of lockdown. I do want to go and inappropriately hug all my team members because I've missed them so much. But that's not allowed. It's not allowed, social distancing. So we'll just have to do it from across the office and then balance it out with Zoom meetings.
What are some of the cultural cons or some of the cultural challenges that you've had to work through with your team?
I don't know that it's necessarily a challenge. I think all of these things are opportunities because the challenge is communicating more. But I think out of a necessity to feel connected, people have done exactly that. People have stepped up and done that. So I think the challenge could have been people feeling very disconnected and the team feeling very disconnected. But then we've used the tools that we have available to us to make sure that doesn't happen. We were very fortunate at Ecostore that we were an essential business. So it was a real privilege to be an essential business. We sell hand wash and dishwashing liquids and cleaning products, not always the sexiest products, but super, super important. And of course, incredibly important through this period where people need those kinds of products. And so we had people on the front line, working, still going and manufacturing in the site, that sort of thing. And there was, I think, that real nervousness at the start. And understandable. There was a lot of anxiety. They'd seen how things had gone overseas, and there was a real nervousness that, they're having to put themselves outside of their bubbles. So we, as a digital and marketing team, I think we always have this desire to create stuff. We just did all these little videos on our phones and pieced it all together in a little video and sent it to the team just as a massive thank you, just saying, hey, we recognize that you guys are out there manufacturing, you're out of your bubbles, you're balancing looking after your families and working, and just we really, really appreciate it. So I think the challenge was that sort of heightened anxiety that people had. But again, by just using the tools that we had, could bring a little smile to people's faces. We all had a bit of a laugh. Learned that some of the people in the team have some hidden skills that we didn't know they had. They can play the guitar and all sorts. And that enabled us to, I think, overcome that challenge of feeling a bit anxious and things just through using the technology that we've got.
So you're obviously in a leadership role. For us, we've got 4 staff as well, and I know a lot of others who are leading teams have face challenges in how they lead and maintain good culture within their team. Are there any other sort of things as a leader that you've had to focus on outside of communication that has been a high priority to maintain the health of your team during the season?
One of the things that I think will stick out of the back of this is people feeling just more comfortable talking about mental health, just how people are feeling. It's something I think we've, as a society, been getting better at. But again, this very sudden change has meant a very sudden change in the way that we behave and the way that we act. And I just feel like there's been a really nice, natural comfort that everyone has had checking in with people. And it's felt easier to do. And people have felt more comfortable in being more honest back. So
great.
I think that's been a real step forward, and I've seen it within my team, but I've certainly heard it from friends and other people in management type positions that there have been a lot more of those conversations.
Oh, good on you. Good on you for being able to do that.
I think everyone, it's a team effort, everyone's checking in on everybody, which is really neat. I may be a manager of a team, but the team culture is down to how the team operate together. And I have an incredible team. They're a really supportive bunch. They're very good at understanding each other and how we all sort of operate as a team. So I think it's as much for a manager to provide direction in that space and provide the space for them, but then also to give that team the space to connect with each other. They don't need, me telling them how to act or when to ask how people are and all the rest of it, but it's just giving them the space, showing them, I suppose, setting the boundaries or the guidelines for how we operate as a team, and then they do the rest. They're awesome.
I have a quick question, probably way off script, so Tim can rein us back in.
Oh, that's a good one.
Thinking through the dynamic of the last 6 weeks, and you're obviously, not a small ship to go through that season. You've obviously navigated it really well, and I'm just really interested in terms of a leadership mindset. What sort of conversations, without going into too much detail, have been happening at a higher level to, the word pivot is very overused over the last 6 weeks, but for lack of a better word, to pivot in the season, and what sort of conversations have been happening? I guess because, just to give some context, that's all we've been talking about is it feels like a very different season for us. Maybe just because we're smaller and not as established and grounded as a lot of other companies, but we're just this season just feels so different. But how do you navigate that with such a big team and ensure that consistency? And I guess you could quite easily pull the rug out from underneath your team and then everyone's scrambling to pivot and create new ideas. So how do you navigate that as a leadership team?
Yeah, pivot. I love it. It's one of the most used words in the last 6 weeks, I think, in business, that's for sure. But I prefer to use the word flexibility, I suppose, than just having flex.
Right.
But the number one thing, certainly in our industry, we're in FMCG, so fast-moving consumer goods. We sell products to consumers. But I think this point is relevant to all businesses, which is absolutely know your consumers. So know your customers, know your consumers. And I know that sounds really obvious, but I think it's so easy, particularly when there's some really big change, for us to get distracted by that. Our consumers and our customers, if they don't buy our products, we don't have a business. And so our job is to really keep up with our consumers and our customers and understand their needs at all times. And what's happening now, consumers change all the time. And the speed at which consumers are changing has certainly increased in the last few while. Is just this big momentous change. They're reassessing lots of different things. And so our job essentially during this time is to keep up with consumers. Within our business, because we're providing consumer goods, supply chain has been obviously the really big one. Supply chains across the world globally have been significantly impacted. So again, flexibility is key. It's about being able to change things up where, for example, we've got a hand wash pack that we've just relaunched and it looks awesome. It looks really beautiful. I'm a marketer, I would say that, but we're about to put this really butt ugly pump on it. It's awful. It just makes me cringe. But we're doing that because it's the only pump that we can get. And if we can get that, it means that we can get more hand wash product onto shelves.
You said you got to be listening to your consumers. And I think, in some degree, we've all got consumers within our industries, whether they consume it in a different way. For our clients, they're consuming content, and it's the clients then consuming the content we create as well to help produce the product. What is some of the messaging that you're trying to develop around the information that you're getting that the consumers are wanting to help, reinforce the strategy that you had or the new strategy that you've developed in the season?
Sort of a build on that, it's probably just as much about messaging as it is the tone as well. So
Yeah.
I'll come to that. The messaging is, it's really important to be clear about how we are supporting New Zealanders, how we are supporting our consumers in other markets as well. Supporting through the way in which we do business, through the products that we provide. So it's really talking about that, and consumers do want to hear about that. They need to hear about that. They want to hear about how we're helping our local communities, how we're helping our employees, and how we're helping them as consumers. So I think it's about how we're supporting. Now more than ever, through a big, reasonably scary change, support is obviously incredibly important. And so they want to hear how, as a business, you are stepping up and supporting. Tonality is key, though. It's so easy in these circumstances to scaremonger. People have fear, they feel anxious. And if you play off of that as a brand, well, yeah, you'll sort of resonate in some way, shape or form. But there's enough out there, especially now, to feel afraid about. The last thing they want is a brand making them feel worse, So it's just making people feel, again, it's a word that's a little overused, but empowered at this time. And it's just a bit of a positive, upbeat kind of feel to things. And there are some brands out there that are doing humor really well right now. And, there are some brands that are in a place that are absolutely in the right place to do that. God, everyone needs a good laugh right now. So, using the right kind of humor really works as well. So I think it's about the messages that we put out there and thinking about how we can deliver those in a way that's not exactly the same as everybody else is doing. There's some really overused language right now, so you've got to watch that. And then the tone, the way in which you say it and having a bit of fun, or at least making people feel good, making people smile, rather than making them think, oh my God, doom and gloom.
Yeah.
So all of those things, there's a combination of all of those things.
What's some of the overused languages that you've heard at the moment, over the last, 4 weeks that you just cringe at when you hear it?
I've already used one. Pivot.
I'm glad you said it. I wasn't going to.
Unprecedented.
There's a lot
That's
of
a horrible one.
through this time of dramatic change, it's, there's lots of scary stuff out there, and there's looking after your health and well-being. We're here to look after your health and well-being. I'd say it with a really silly sort of accent, but there is actually a very good video that was put out there, and it's in the US, but they've basically chopped about 20 different brands, ads that genuinely exist that have been put out there in the last 4 weeks. And they've chopped them all, and they're all like carbon copies of each other. And they've got, the exact same script, the exact same kind of storyline, the exact same sort of drama, and the exact same words through it. And it's really quite entertaining. But you realise that actually you've got to think about doing things a little bit differently. And also, during these times, you've also got to be true to your brand and who you are as well. So there's no point in coming out there with some sort of massive comedic effect and, being overly funny when you're just not that kind of brand. As a bank, that probably wouldn't be quite right, for example. But you've got to think about just how you deliver that messaging, but you do it in a way that's true to your brand.
Yeah,
that's really
It's
important.
actually really good advice for us.
Yeah.
I'll take some notes and we could apply it to our clients. But it's actually a really good point, because they were in the first week when, we're heading into level 4, those were the only conversations we were having with the brands that we were serving. And it's like, how do we put out a statement, create a video, put some stuff on social media and still be here in 6 weeks and not offend it, but still show that we want to be visible and we want to be accessible. And it was just, there was so much uncertainty around how to frame that tone that you've been talking about. So it's just really interesting to think about it.
And I think you've got to show, obviously, an awareness and an understanding of the current situation. There's no doubt, it is a very big, scary, grave situation. So I think it's incredibly important to acknowledge that. But what's also equally important to acknowledge is that we're businesses,
Yeah.
and that actually doing good business right now is essential. Doing good business keeps people in jobs, it keeps the economy going, and it keeps society ticking along, from a business perspective. So I think as long as you are acknowledging both of those things, you're not being insensitive to either of those things, then, you can't go wrong. I think you're doing the right thing.
So we are in unprecedented times, and I just had to throw that in there. So we're trying to, like, I guess every other business, trying to work out what the future is going to look like so that we can plan for it. And one thing that we're trying to do now is we're not trying to make any big decisions that are going to affect the long-term outcome of the company. We're trying to stay nimble, trying to stay flexible. For you as Ecostore, where you've got such a wide network to look after in terms of employee, supply chains, even all the retailers that you supply, how are you planning for the future, and what sort of timeframes are you planning for? Because it's not like we can say, all right, we're going to be at level 0 in 12 months' time. This thing could be around a whole lot longer. Touch wood, it won't be. But what sort of timeframes are you sort of planning your strategies around?
All of them. And you have to,
Right.
as a business. But that sounds a bit, so the way that we have to do it is, as in any time, you have to look at a business from both short-term perspective and a longer-term perspective. And you need an eye on both. And I think the risk right now is that it's been such a dramatic change that it's just made us very, very short-sighted.
Yeah.
And it's incredibly important that we're all working out how to survive over the next, few weeks, the next few months. How we're going to keep people in jobs, how we're going to, all businesses are facing these kinds of thoughts and discussions. Absolutely critical. We have to think about the now. So there is going to be a disproportionate amount of focus on the now, and that's normal, needed, necessary. But what we can't lose sight of is, well, what are we trying to be? What kind of business are we trying to build? And where, who do we want to be? Because that affects and guides the decisions that you make now, and should do guide the decisions that you make now. And it's important that, this changes happen incredibly quickly. Yeah. And maybe coming out the back of it will not be quite as dramatic, unfortunately, or as quick. I think that's a reality. But it can still move quite quickly. I mean, if you look at New Zealand, I think we went into lockdown 28 days after the first case. We've been in lockdown for 6 weeks, and now there is we're getting back into a bit of sense of normality with level 2. Now, many other markets, many other countries are not quite as quick, but we're getting back into things. People will start to flip back into their sort of normal ways of working, normal ways of purchasing, normal ways of consuming media. And we've got to be ready for that. So it's about planning very much for the now and doing what needs to be done to survive right now, but making sure that that you've got a real sense of who you want to be and where you want to go, because that will inform the decisions that you make now. For us, we're very sustainability focused. We always have been. It's in our DNA. It's who we are. So that holds true. And it means that any decisions we make in the short term are still going to be guided by the fact that we want to create products that are safer for you, your family, the world. And it means that we don't make any decisions right now that we'd look back on in 6 months' time and go, whoa, why did we do that? And that we have to unpick. So, yes, I said everything. But really what I mean is short with an eye on the long term as well.
Yeah, that's great.
I've got a question around the marketing budget that a lot of companies are considering. And it's a selfish question because we're in the industry where we need companies to advertise and to employ us to create content for them. Maybe you could speak as general or specific as you like, but how has the last 6 weeks changed your mindset in terms of marketing spend and where to put resources? And I guess specifically about the placement, because I guess people always need to market in some capacity. Has that shifted at all over the last 6 weeks? Has there been more emphasis on social? And how is that all affecting your decisions?
So there's probably a couple of things in there, which is just marketing and investing in marketing. And then the second part is just the media landscape right now. So in terms of investing in marketing, absolutely critical. I'd say that I'm a marketer, but no, it is actually really genuinely true. There is a lot of stats out there that are beyond just me, really robust pieces of work that have been done, that those brands that maintain a presence and demonstrate that they are there, that they are that they are out there, that they understand where consumers are at, that they are there for consumers, do much better out of the back of this. And the reality of marketing investment is that if you turn it off, it takes so much longer to recover from that. So there's some really interesting work that's been done on short-term brand building and long-term brand building. And, it's really important that you continue to build your brand. You just disappear for half a year, and it can take you 2-3 years to fully recover from that. Yeah. So yes, it's hard, but a presence through these times is so important and can be very beneficial. And the reality is that some businesses will not be able to invest, but it then also means that you have more clear space as well. You can cut through more as a brand because there's less noise out there. So everybody on a day-to-day basis, not in lockdown I would suggest, but everyone on a day-to-day basis sees about 2,000 pieces of advertising or communication from businesses and brands every day. And it's absolutely huge. But during this kind of time, this kind of period, and these kinds of changes, that's a lot less. So your ability to stand out and cut through is far greater. So I think where you can, there is a reality that marketing budgets are going to be squeezed, that businesses are going to be squeezed, but where businesses can, they should continue to invest because you'll get better bang for buck right now.
I read a real interesting, it wasn't an article, it was more just a whole lot of opinions on a social media marketing string. And they were talking about the IQ of viewers and how they can just sniff a rat so much easier after the last 6 weeks because we've been consuming content. It's almost like people automatically know when you're not authentic as a company in your advertising now. And I think that's true. Like, I think you can just smell a rat from a mile off, whereas I don't know if 2-3 years ago you could.
I think that's actually a trend that was happening anyway, definitely. This need, again, it's something we hear quite a lot, but this need for authenticity, for brands to be really authentic. But with people increasingly consuming their social media, I totally agree. They're becoming even more savvy. It's also perhaps in this world of this whole fake media thing, what's real, what's not. And there's a more maybe skeptical approach to media, to news, to advertising, and people are questioning more than perhaps they did because of that. So interesting times, definitely. We have to be true, we have to be honest, and we have to be authentic. And sometimes that means you're going to have to say things as a brand that might feel a bit uncomfortable, but it's important to do so.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's great. There's so much knowledge that's been shared.
Well, we've definitely taken plenty of your time, and I want to thank you so much, Jemma, for making space in your morning to be able to tee up and have a chat and hear what's going on in the Ecostore world, and how you've adapted as a leader, but also within the marketing space, what's happening. And we really hope that Ecostore can come out on the other side of this a stronger company together. Because if there's one thing that I really love about the Ecostore model, it's you're passionate about New Zealand, you're passionate about the environment, and you're actually doing good. You're not just about filling the pockets of shareholders with cash. So awesome to see, and I think New Zealand can only do more good when there's businesses like yourself around. And so we wish you all the luck, and we thank you. But before we do sign off, is there any last piece of advice or any gold nuggets that you'd love to share that we perhaps haven't touched on?
There is probably one thing that I'm super passionate about that you actually just touched on there in your little sum up, and that is that business can be a force for good. I'm massively passionate about business being a force for good. Business is not bad. Business is not bad as long as it is there to do good. And we have the opportunity right now to really remake things. So New Zealand and across the globe, things have been tipped on its head. we have the opportunity to remake things now the way they should be, rather than just the way they were, because that's what we knew and it was comfortable. So now should be the time that we really ask some questions. How do we ensure that we are doing the right thing by people, we are doing the right thing by the planet, and that we are making sure that business decisions and government decisions are made, because there'll be a lot of them being made now, are being made as forces for good. So I suppose that's the thing that I get really, really pumped about and excited about. So leave it on that one there.
Hey, so there you have it. All 11 episodes are done for the first season of the LumEd podcast. I hope this has been insightful for you, that you've been able to take something away and apply it to your world. If you want to go back and check out all the other episodes, feel free to head over to our website, it's lumiere.nz. And /LumEd, and you'll be able to find the podcasts from there. If there is something in these podcasts that has been helpful to you, we want to hear about it. We've heard some great stories along the way, so feel free to drop us an email, DM us on socials. Otherwise, go on your merry way, and let's see you just start smashing some home runs. Let's see COVID get out of our lives and move on and get back to business as normal. Wishing you all the best for your future business and entrepreneurial endeavors. We'd love to hear about them if we can, so flick us a message. Otherwise, stay tuned for more to come.